All right, everybody. Welcome to the Conscious Forum. This is the 1st of July, 2025. The summer is well on its way now. We're in the summer equinox. The longest days of the year started on the 21st. And that's kind of appropriate because we're going to talk a lot today about nature, your relationship with nature, how important it is for our consciousness, and how important it is for us to truly become connected and aware. So with that, the topic today is nature and you. This is a foundational piece of well-being. It's so critical, so important, and so many times we disregard it. We treat ourselves sometimes to a sunset or the stars at night, but for most of us, most of our lives, we're kind of on the run. We're in this race, and it's almost like when we were really little, someone whispered in our ear, success, and that was the main thing, success. And the reality is, what's really more important is the health that comes from being fulfilled, being happy, being connected, sensing that every day that you're fully engaged in something that creates fulfillment for yourself, that you have great relational health. Obviously, as a leader in the health field, I'm very much into physical health, but our mental health is what this forum is all about. And I think so many of us are really at a point in our lives where we need to kind of stop and proverbially smell the roses. So today we're going to talk about that. Nature and you. Basically, you know, you've seen sunsets, and we are remark on them to the people we're with, and we may spend a brief moment looking at it and say, "Wow, isn't that beautiful?" And there's a sense of something that happens inside of us when we see this. But most of the time we acknowledge it, say, "Wow, isn't that beautiful?" And boom, then we're back to our life, to this search or I don't know, process of creating success. And what we really want to do is really be in the state of being, a state of presence. And so what I'd like to do is start off today, and this may seem a little woo-woo to some of you. And if it is, then that means that you really need this more than I do. And that is this sense of presence. And so what I'd love us all to do is kind of take a big, deep centering breath and kind of feel ourselves. Most of you are sitting presently. If you're in your car, don't do this, but close your eyes and kind of feel your feet on the floor and kind of feel a grounding. And take a couple, I'm going to do it myself as well. Take a couple really deep centering breaths. And as you exhale, kind of feel the release of that tension, that energy, that with each breath. And it's so important. We spend so little time, and it's so easy to do. We can do this all day long. And we can do it, if you're come out of a stressful meeting, something happens in your life that creates that, icky sauce, you can always spend a moment and kind of release it. Because, even though our breath is part of our autonomic nervous system and we breathe automatically, is we can take back control. And when we take control of our breathing and we kind of sense our presence in the space we're in, and we feel ourselves grounded. This is really important, by the way, when you go outside. Go outside into nature and, walk into your car and just spend a moment and just feel that connection, that ground, the gravitational pull of the earth grounding us back to the present moment. So why does nature matter so much for our well-being? Well, just as I've been talking about, basic nature reduces the stress hormones like cortisol. You felt that release, that almost like you can feel it. It's all this canned up inside. It's almost like a tea kettle that's about ready to whistle. There's all this pressure inside of us. And when we release like that, and especially when we connect with nature, we're going to talk a lot about this. I'm going to probably talk about a few things that you're not familiar with, which you can incorporate into your life, which I think are so important. But it improves our blood pressure, our heart rate variability, and our mood. It changes our mood. Even images of nature improve cognitive performance and reduce fatigue. So, if you're at a point, that's why it's great to have on your screensaver, have a beautiful picture of nature, and just look at it. During your day, if you're at work and everything's crazy around you and you're in search, in pursuit of success, so to speak, bottom line is you can stop and have a beautiful picture. digitally. We have it on our phone. I have wonderful pictures I've done out sailing in the islands. And actually, I decided to do this talk while I was out on my boat in the middle of the Exumas, the lower Exumas, an area where there's no people. And people say, well, what do you do down there? What do I do? I celebrate nature. I see incredible wildlife in the water. We snorkel. We watch these incredible colors of the aquamarine water highlighted and changing throughout the day. Beautiful sunsets, incredible stars. And, what's interesting is we used to play a game, 1 point for a plane, 3 points for a satellite, and 5 points for a falling star, or a meteor. We've had to downgrade a satellite to just 2 points because there's so many. The night sky is full of the garbage, the stuff which makes, life easier for us, but certainly kind of clutters up the beauty of nature. But actually, in essence, they're kind of fun to watch. So, bottom line, all these things are so important, and we spend so little time, and they are free. You can look up at the sky any night. So this is one of the words I wanted to introduce. This is called biophilia. It's basically an inborn connection. We are wired to seek harmony with nature. It's part of us. It's part of who we are. That's why, people will, do heroic things and risk their life to save a dog or a wounded animal. There's this connection. And once 10,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago, we were so connected in harmony. Most of us have seen movies about the American Indians and their connection, and when they would kill a deer, taking their heart and taking a bite, and then thanking and gracing them for giving them, the nutrients that come from that. And that connection is something that we were all attuned to. A couple thousand years ago, there wasn't technology, there wasn't electricity, there certainly weren't any of the internet devices and phones and computers. And so we were much more connected. And there's a resonance that occurs there. There is a sense of calm that occurs there and a harmony that's so, so important. So biophilia, that love of life, so to speak, and Aristotle talked about it, back over a couple thousand years ago. But there's this connection, love of life and the tendency. And I can tell you, while I was in the islands, and even where I live on the ocean is by my choice. I mean, it's my favorite thing. I love water. I love being around nature, and I can tell you that I use it all day long. And it's something you don't have to live by the water to enjoy the senses of nature. And even if you live in a city like New York City, you can go to Central Park. I mean, most cities have parks you can go to and walk through. But that connection, kind of emergence of ourselves into nature, is so, so important. And yet, I would say if I tested people on biophilia, what that actually means, most people wouldn't know because it's a lost art and it's an art we really need to resume. Our mental illness is at an all-time high. Our use of AI, the internet, our phones, I mean, the connection, people are certainly addicted to the electronic leash and they're connected to it. But bottom line is being able to come out into nature, and that reconnection is so critical. So nature is a teacher. I like to think of it this way, and I love to sail. Many of you know I'm a sailor and sail in the ocean, for a week at a time out in the middle of nowhere, 1,200, 1,500 miles through the ocean. But nature doesn't rush, yet everything gets done. And trees don't cling to the last season's leaves. Rivers don't resist the flow. So ask yourself, what is nature trying to teach you right now? And as I look out right before I got on this Zoom, I went outside for a minute. I was trying to take a picture of the pelicans. We have a dance where the pelicans fly by and soar by my house. And I was hoping to get one. I wanted to get one instantly because it's one of my favorite drills. And I become so attuned to that as watching them and that connection to them. And sometimes I even sense the term synchronicity, where things aren't happening they're happening for a reason. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But basically, ask yourself during the day, am I connected to nature? And what is nature teaching me? What can it teach me? So one of the things I haven't talked about before, but is in our consciousness, is rewilding our consciousness. Modern life, overstimulates and detaches us from all our rhythms. Our circadian rhythm. Most 80 million Americans don't sleep well. Why? they've lost their circadian rhythm. They basically are up with electronic devices, blue light, TV, internet, on shows, and just totally disconnected from nature itself. To reconnect with natural light and grounding practices, one thing I did in my house is I put an automated system in that at 8 o'clock at night, right after sunset, everything in my house goes to very, very low ambient light. There are no bright lights. And I'm reconnecting that. Yes, I live in a house, and yeah, I'm really happy I have air conditioning so I can keep it cool in Florida in the summertime. But I also want to do the things that reconnect with nature. So basically dropping the light, getting natural light. And then in the morning, it's so important to get out. One of the key things, if we look at how our brain works, is in the pineal gland and basically morning sunlight, just looking outside, getting up, opening your drapes, and really reconnecting. It creates this alertness and it creates the reticular activating system to fully become alert. And by doing that and abruptly seeing that light, it allows us to go into a wake state. And the other things are, when I'm home, I don't allow shoes in my house. Basically, I barefoot. And one of the other things, they talk about is walking around in nature barefoot, walking on the beach, walking out in your yard, and making sure you're obviously, if they've just put insecticide down, don't do that. But if you're in a natural state, the other thing is nature fast, where many people now are assuming a new ritual of going 3 days, going in nature and not eating and fasting to reconnect themselves. So that reflection is so important. When do you feel most connected to nature? What works for you? We're all in different places. Some of us do live in cities, and maybe it may require you to get out of the city on the weekends to get in this space. But all of us have access to the evening skylight, and basically, what part of your life is asking to return to something simpler? And that goes what we were talking about last month, was this idea of getting back into flow, removing a lot of that thought and the cognitive dissonance that occurs, all the cognitive emotive loops of worrying, not being fully present, and getting back to simpler. And can you, in your life, basically get back to, I have to tell you, my most fun thing isn't going to a major city or to a metropolis. It's actually my trips that I go out on the boat to the Exumas, and basically hang out with family and friends. I mean, that really connects me. And that's actually what stimulated, as I mentioned earlier, that I want to do this talk, because I think so many of us are leaving that part out, and it's such a grounding effect to start getting us back into a healthy mental state and consciousness. So, what's our legacy? Nature is our original blueprint. Way before we had technology, way before you had all these other things that you now identify with, we were basically based in nature, just like every other organism. And if you look at many simple societies, they don't look at themselves as being humans separate from nature. They actually look at them as being part of this incredible process, which is the nature cycle, this interaction that occurs, this dynamic ecosystem that they're part of and they're contribute to. And when you're in that state, you don't pollute. You make sure you take just what you need. You have abundance mentality, and you do the things that connect you because you don't want to ruin those resources. And the more we can return to it, the more we return to ourselves. So again, the breath is a great way to kind of remind you to reconnect and kind of connect back to your connection with nature. So synchronicities, next time you see a sunset or you're watching the skyline or the sky at night, even if you're in a major city or in Arizona, and you're looking down from the foothills and you're looking at the lights twinkle and stuff. The synchronicity isn't by accident. Our connection to nature, our connection to so many things. I was snorkeling basically, and came around a corner, and there was about a 5 foot barracuda. And it's funny because the idea, just much like response to a snake or something, is a degree of caution, and certainly I respect. But there was a curiosity from both of us, and we just kind of looked at each other. I didn't move, he didn't move, or she didn't move, and we just kind of looked at each other and just for like 2 minutes, and there was just this sense of connection that occurred. Now, I didn't go spearfishing in front of her, do something stupid where I could have created a dangerous situation. But there's a connection, and there's so many times that's available to us. And by connecting with nature, with a bird that lands on your balcony, seeing a wild deer in nature, whatever it is, just that opportunity to reconnect is so important to remind us. So basically, open your awareness to the lessons of nature. And this is kind of my favorite drill. I love this at night. I've got a big kind of a sofa, and I love to sit outside. And it's beautiful in the morning. It's beautiful in the afternoon, and then obviously at night with the stars, it's incredible. Many times I'll sleep out there, and just the connection is incredible. But if you don't live on the beach, basically this is what the Japanese do. They have I think it's called Shinrin Yaku, which means forest bathing. And simply, you can find a natural environment like a forest or a park, and you can immerse yourself in the atmosphere of the forest. And you engage your senses, listening to the sounds, smelling the air, touching the natural elements, observing the scenery, and breathing deeply and being present and mindful. And forest bathing is a beautiful way to connect you. It helps, again, simple as the other things we talked about. It lowers our autonomic nervous system, lowers our blood pressure, lowers our cortisol, and puts us in an environment. And they say even the smell and the inhaling of the forest, the environment, the scents coming off the trees, that all of it can be hypnotic and very soothing. And we all have access to some through a park or through a local woods where you can go do this. So important. And plus, go for a good walk and get your steps in as well. So when you embrace nature, life starts flowing. Again, going back, this is another example of creating internal stability. When you are calm, one of the things in college and medical school, I was a lifeguard on the west coast of Florida. And I noticed in the morning, I would get there at 10 o'clock, and people would come with their blankets and their kids and their chairs and their cooler. And the first hour would be chaos, yelling at the kids, changing them, putting the sunscreen on. And it was this state of high tension. And by the end of the afternoon, the parents would usually be sleeping, the kids would be playing in the sand, and there was a sense of calm that occurs. And that's an example of biophilia. It's this connection to nature, the sense of the water, the sense of being out in nature, that's so important to create internal stability, which allows us then to be more in equilibrium with our surroundings and with the people in our lives. So with that, let's open this up for questions, Rach.
All right, first up we have April.
Hey, April.
There you go.
Hi, Dr. A. I kept getting back to grounding. I have read a lot about it, and right now I'm currently waiting to have hip replacement surgery, so I haven't really been able to go down to the beach and walk like I normally would. So, what is your opinion of grounding mats and grounding sheets?
Well, uh, my personal opinion is that you don't need any of that stuff. I honestly, I mean, there's a commercial application. When there's a commercial application, people find many reasons why you need it. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I think if you're using it in the way what we've just been talking about, I think it's fine. I don't think it's necessary. I think the good old ground is really what you want. Now, the other part is like, if you're not able as mobile as you'd like to be until you get this fixed. By the way, you're a great example. I'm looking behind you. Is that real or is that synthetic?
Oh, it's totally fake.
Okay, but that's okay though. Well, I can tell you by looking at you in that surrounding and seeing all those plants. Okay, plants are part of biophilia, right? Surrounding ourselves with plants. I mean, I have a tendency when I go to the store and go grocery shopping, I always go over and get flowers. I always have flowers in my house. I mean, I absolutely love them, and it's totally a luxury. It's totally not, they're of no quote value from the standpoint of, what do they do? But they do a lot for me. They bring color, they bring life, I love it. And so I think anything you do, standing, feeling the ground underneath you. I actually added something to my life a couple months ago. I'm going to do it in a future talk, but I'm now using a cooling mattress on my bed. The other side of this is when you're not present, when you're sleeping is so critical that we get 8 hours of high quality sleep, which sets you up to be much more present in the day. When you don't sleep well and you're tired, your senses kind of have a dull edge on them. And so to truly appreciate nature and all the things, it's great to get a good night's sleep. And so I basically, in that case, I use it to keep my body cooler because when our body's cool, we naturally release melatonin. And so melatonin, that's why I always suggest people an hour before they go to bed, build a sleep ritual, that twilight hour that where, you're taking a hot bath and then you're cooling off, making sure your room is dark, quiet, and cool, right? Because that cools you off. And when your core temperature goes down, you release naturally melatonin. Well, I actually added that, and that's certainly a gimmick, if you want to say a gimmick, but what it does is it creates coolness, and so that I don't overheat, and it's dramatically improves my sleep. And I monitor. I use a device, a wrist device that monitors, and actually this particular mattress actually monitors your sleep as well, and it cools or warms depending on how you're sleeping. So I find it incredibly helpful. But as far as those, I don't know anything about grounding mats. I just know that it's really what you're doing here that allows you to, I mean, obviously the reason why I'm mentioning a cooling mat because you're actually physically changing the temperature, which helps your body stay cool. And when your core temperature is lower, you don't wake up because I have a tendency because I happen to be hyper energetic, so to speak. I get hot at night and then it wakes me up. And so now it's not waking me up. And so I find that helpful. But I think anything that works for you, awesome. Cool. Well,
So
good luck
just
for you, sir.
one other thing is, so as far as like just being in nature and walking, is it your belief that it's either dirt or grass, not sidewalk, that is going to be beneficial for the grounding part?
Well, I mean, I think anytime you get back to the natural organic state of nature, that's going to be better for you.
Okay.
Uh, but I'm not, they're two different things. One is physical activity. If you live in the city, get out and walk, right? Get out and walk. And also if you're in a place where you're near a highway, make sure you're safe. And so you're on, one of the things when I was in Copenhagen doing the documentary, one of the beautiful things, Health by Design, was that they actually have raised bike paths. They're not just a line painted on the road, right, where someone can still whack you. They actually are elevated, like curb, and they have their own special place. So that gives you a safe place to physically be active. So yeah, but as far as getting into nature, getting back to the natural, and when I say synchronicity, that's what I mean. Man-made structures, urban environment is not conducive to being in nature, and that's why one of the fathers of New York City were smart enough to, because that real estate is obviously at a premium, to be smart enough to designate Central Park as a place for all the people of New York City. And I'm just picking that as an example. Even in an urban environment, you can find areas to get out in nature and truly be with nature.
Well, okay, one last question. So since you mentioned the documentary, when will your primer be available?
Very soon, very soon. It's literally in review right now, and it should be very soon.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Awesome. Who's next, Rach?
All right, next up we have Barb.
Hey,
Hi,
Barb. You're muted, so I cannot hear you.
There,
There you go.
got it. Sorry. Um, yeah, so I am curious about building a habit around connecting with nature because my first thought is, oh, I'd love to go connect with nature, but I'm so busy, I'm so this, I'm so that, so I need to maybe build a solid schedule or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just wondered
No,
what.
yeah, exactly. Well, and there's other parts, there's many parts of this. I'm not I'm not an exercise enthusiast, but I heli ski, I do lots of sports and stuff. I actually build into my day activity. I have a mindset that, for instance, like right now, I'm sitting at my desk for this hour, and then I'll get up and I live in a three-story. I'll go up and down the stairs. I'll go do something specifically down in the basement. I mean, I
Mhm.
will make sure that intentionally in terms of activity, in terms of my consciousness, that I spend time doing that. So it doesn't have to be a designated hour where you go do something. It can be,
Mm.
like let's say you work in an office building, you can take a walk to the water cooler or bring your own lunch, go outside, walk outside into the park or
Yeah.
go for a walk at lunchtime. If you obviously if you live at home, just put a timer on your phone and spend 5 minutes. I go for a walk on the beach. I basically will just walk outside on the balcony and spend 15 minutes. I think it's important that we build that into almost this sense and then I think a really good thing, which we started with when I was talking about presence, is take a deep breath. And as you release, do I have tension? And most of us will say yes. And we're breathing from our upper chest rather than deep centering breaths from our diaphragm where we fully feel our belly come out. And that's a great way to do it. Put your hand on your chest and your belly and feel, do you feel your belly come out when you deep breathe? If you don't, you're breathing up here. And what you want to do is you want to recenter your breath and breathe from your belly, because when your diaphragm expands, your autonomic nervous system, you have the vagal nerve, which stimulates the diaphragm. And that nerve is part of the autonomic nervous system, which is part of the system that's the calm system. And you're reconnecting your vagus
Mm.
to you and to that calm state. And even just doing that, and then sensing that. But I think a deep breath is a good sense. Like when you do that, say, you know what? I need to walk outside. You know,
Yeah.
we
Right.
we as a whole, we're finding more things such as vitamin D. Vitamin D naturally, we get vitamin D when we're exposed to sunlight naturally through our skin. And so many people have a relative deficiency. I mean, I'm not giving medical advice here. I'm just simply saying that getting out in nature for a few moments, you're not going to get sunburn in 5 minutes, but you will absorb the energy from the sun. And so, and if you do get burns, then put some sunscreen on. But the point is getting connected more during our day. It's a centering practice. It
Mm.
allows us to, what April was talking about, this grounding that occurs. So important for us because if we're running on that proverbial success track, we're going to miss life.
Yeah.
We're going to miss life.
Nope. That makes total sense. Yeah. I just need to remember to
Use
want
your phone.
to
Use
do
your
it.
phone
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
remind.
Right. Set a
Use your
reminder.
phone. And then what'll happen, it'll become a habit. I
Yeah.
know, I know during the day, I mean, I get up several times. I mean, I don't sit at my desk from never more. This is about as long as I'll sit at my desk at a time. But I get up, I move around, I basically walk outside. I sense that in the morning when I get up, I specifically designed this house so it's all glass. I have the full view of the ocean with the sunrise in the morning. It's kind of like I feel that connection, and I can't overemphasize how important it is. Because when you feel connected spiritually, whatever your religion or spiritual thoughts and your faith and things, that connection is so critical for us. And we just seem to we kind of, it's like sleep. It's like sleep. We kind of put it in the back burner like it's a luxury. And it's
Right.
really not. Our connection to nature is so critical for our well-being.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. I'm
Cool.
going to do
Awesome.
it.
All right. Good. All right, Rach, who we got?
All right, next up we have Becky. Hey,
Hey,
Becky.
Becky.
Hi, Dr. A. How are you?
I am fantastic.
Good. This resonates, this whole subject with me very, very, very strongly because I'm a big believer and I guess it's called grounding when you just touch grass is what they say, And I went to the backyard. We are getting a little bit of a rain right now, but yes, I do it quite a bit. Every morning I have my coffee and I go out there and I stand my grass, my nice soft grass without any stickers in it, with my coffee and just barefoot. And sometimes I even like lay down in it and just lay down and just be still, because I believe there's power in the planet from God that heals us and just connects us. And I also wanted to say about this one time that I work at a church camp, and I was just there last week, or the week before, and it's by a river, and there's hot rocks because the sun's beating down on that. And I work in the kitchen during that camp, right? And I'm so achy from the bad beds and the concrete that I'm on, I go out to that river and I lay down on those hot rocks, and I started doing that years ago, and it's so helpful. It hurts. I mean, everywhere where it was hurting, I'll put a hot rock, and because they do that at expensive spas. And I
Yeah,
said, I'm
that's
getting
right.
this for free, and and it's just wonderful. And so I just wanted to share about that. I didn't really have a question, but those are my experiences with grounding anytime I can. I was just at Arlington Cemetery Sunday. We had traveled I had a conference for the DAR at Washington, D.C. And so I didn't want it to be disrespectful or anything like it, but that grass is so wonderful. I got my flip-flops off and I stepped in the grass and just stood in it. And so anytime anybody finds really soft grass, or even in your own backyard, like I can even show you my little backyard area if I could flip it. I don't know if I can flip it. Can I flip it?
Sure,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah. See that
Yeah,
little area?
awesome.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's awesome grass.
That's right. Oh, my husband works very hard to keep it awesome for us. And now I can't flip it back to my face.
I
Anyway,
love it. I love it.
anyway,
No,
oh gosh.
that's awesome. And that brought a smile to my face as a kid. My grandmother used to take me up to Pennsylvania, up in the um, up near Dusher, a little town in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania, like Wilkesboro area. And I remember one of my favorite things used to be to hop along the rocks and the riverbed, right, and just hang that, be with nature, watching the water, watching the little insects on the water, the kind that stay on the top. Their surface area is so little that they dance on the top, and sitting down, like getting in the cold water and then laying on those warm rocks like that. And think about how that makes you feel. And we have this search, and going back to just for a moment what you're saying, success and this need to achieve all these material things. But the real things that really matter are the simple things. They're the things like that. And just like looking at your grass, right? Just I can just tell it's great, and brings back memories of being a kid and going out in the grass and the lawn in the evening, catching lightning bugs, right?
That's
Fireflies.
right. I
And
saw
just simple, and that connection both to our youth and to ourselves and to nature when we're kids. I mean, I remember my father was in the Air Force, and we lived on a base in Savannah, Georgia, and because for the aircraft, for the runways, there was a huge fence system, so no one was allowed in. And so, but being in on the base, I could take my bike when I was like 8 years old and go to the swamp and observe nature all day, and just the beauty of that and doing that. And kids today, they end up unfortunately on their phones or on the TV, and they're losing all that connection. We become an indoor species, and it's so critical as adults that we get our kids out, and for moms and dads that we're spending time out in nature, because that connection is so critical. So thanks for sharing. That's awesome. And I saw somebody put up there sitting on their porch in the rain, right? And as the rain comes down, and just sensing that the sound and the dampness from that, it's pretty cool. So
Yeah, I
thanks.
was gonna like go ahead and lay down in the grass, but it's kind of wet, so I could show you how to do it if you needed to know.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
But
that's awesome.
and river water and oceans, I put my feet in them every time I get to them.
Yeah.
And I just think if we just start doing that, because I watched a documentary on Amazon or something like that about grounding, and they were talking about how in this time period we're always wearing shoes. We're never touching nature. And so just on purpose. And my husband always wears like closed-toed shoes and socks, and I tell him, take those things off and put your bare feet on this grass.
Exactly. No,
Because that
that
is
is
what we need
so
to
cool.
do. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's so
so
cool.
if everybody will just do that anytime they want to, and you'll feel the power of, I don't know if it's what's in the the magnetism or what it is, but it's something about
It doesn't matter. You feel it. And when we open to it, but you have to be open to it. You have to be present. And a great way to start, especially if you're, if you're spending most of your time inside, is your breathing. Your breathing starts to reconnect you to that. So it's great. So, well, thank you so much for sharing. That was awesome.
You bet.
Awesome.
Talk to you later.
Okay. Rachel?
All right, next up we have Mary. Hey, Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Hey, hi. It's wonderful to meet you. I want to thank you. I think that if Optavia didn't exist, I would be in much worse straits than I'm in. And so I've been confined to a nursing home, waiting for surgery on my leg fracture for quite a long time. And I was just wondering, um, I've I've changed Zumba so I could do it in the bed, and I've come up with a lot of other things so that I could still do them in the bed, And I am wondering, how can I reconnect to nature stuck in here? I mean, I look at magazines and I watch travel videos and I do those things, but I don't feel the same thing that I would feel if I were standing out in the rain or if I were barefoot, etc.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the things you're doing are a good, we know this, the research supports that just looking at a picture of nature improves you. That there's a connection that occurs there. So I think obviously while you're not able to be mobile and you can't get out in it, I think you're doing the right things. I think the more you can do that and spend time. What was nice, the kind lady I was just talking to, bringing back the memories of things you did before and you could do, and you'll be able to do again once get your legs fixed. Is that connection? It brings back memories and the memories of those days out as a kid in nature, uh, looking at pictures of beautiful. Like I have a, I got a book. It was actually given to me by my friends that I took with me on my sail trip, and it's a book about the islands, and it's not. It's just photos, but it's photos of these incredible sunsets and reefs and fish and beautiful of a shark in the evening sunlight. And it just I actually just last night I was looking through, they gave it to me over the weekend, and I was looking through it last night. And so you can take magazines, and if you have access to a computer, and you can actually go, I actually, when I made this presentation, those pictures that I have here, I just put those together yesterday, from nature, from going online and just said beautiful pictures of nature, and they came up, and they're free. You don't have to buy them, and you can just put those on your computer or on your phone and just look at them and visualize that connection. I mean, that state. You remember, your mind is critical right now for your recovery. And I love that you're doing Zumba and you're doing things to stay active while you're even in bed rest, until you get your leg fixed, because all those things are important. But the mental part of you being strong for yourself and not getting depressed or upset, and really fully focusing on this beautiful thing called life and your connection to it. You're connected to that, and I can see, like, when you're smiling now. I mean, I can see your face change. The more you can do that, and this is a opportune talk I'm doing today, because it's an opportunity for you to really focus on that and to use that mental energy to help with your recovery as well. Cool.
I just got taken off the vitamin D, and I just really feel a difference in that too. So I will get some coffee table books and I will get busy.
Awesome. Awesome. Sounds
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you. Good luck, and good luck with your surgery. All right.
Thank you.
All right, Rach.
All right, next up we have Carrie. Oh, I
right now, but I have a question. People put their gemstones during the full moon cycle to re-energize their gemstones and our vital force. The moon has a negative effect on me. The full moon has a negative effect, and I am restless and don't sleep well. Any thoughts on changing that?
You kind of broke up. So just repeat what your question is again.
Uh, my question is, people their gemstones out during a full moon cycle and just to re-energize that and their vital force. The full moon has a negative effect on me. I'm very restless and don't sleep well for like 2 or 3 days during that full moon cycle. Any suggestions on flipping that or changing that?
Well, I just complete disclosure. I don't know anything about um, stones and their life force. But I will say this: there's certainly people are affected by the moon. The moon has a huge gravitational pull. It affects us. The light from the moon. I mean, obviously, we're connected. Through being a human to the moon, and obviously the moon has its directly has its effects on us. And so what I would say is what I say to anyone that isn't sleeping well: make sure that obviously your room is totally dark or you have a sleep mask. Number one. Make sure that the temperature is cool. It's very important that I think anywhere less than 70 degrees, but 65 to 68 degrees, keeping your room cool, making sure your room is quiet, that there's no sound in it. And then probably on the days, if that seems to be directly correlated with when the moon is full, on those days, basically, if you don't sleep well, don't take a nap. Give yourself a chance, to stay awake even though you're tired. And then the next night you'll fall asleep. Use a bath. I mean, I think a bath or a hot shower, hot bath or hot shower, like an hour to half an hour before you go to bed, and those things should help you with that. And then, I mean, I don't recommend this except for when people travel, but there is the ability to use a supplement like natural melatonin, on those times. So they're all potentially helpful. I mean, I'm not recommending that, but and obviously communicate that with your physician before you would, do that. But those are all things you could do if it's only those 2 or 3 days. Uh, but as far as I can't really comment on anything as far as re-energizing your gemstones. That's a little bit beyond science. All
Thank
right.
you.
Yep, you're welcome. Okay. Is that everybody, Chris? Or do you have a specific question?
It is, but I got a fun question for you. So,
Okay.
you've known me for a few years now. You know, I live here in Arizona, where
Yeah.
it's currently the same temperature as the surface of the sun. And I don't know if you noticed, I am incredibly white. I burn in about 5 minutes of sunlight. I I can be outside with my kids for maybe 20 minutes before I am on fire. And so how can you ensure you're getting enough nature when it is so hot outside? You know, what are some
Yeah.
other things that you can do to ensure you're getting all of that?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, and I know Arizona is dramatically hot, and they can say, well, it's dry heat, but when it's 120 degrees, that's pretty hot. So, the bottom line is there doesn't have to be a direct relationship between being outside and sunlight. And sunlight is one of the benefits, but there's indoor, a great even in Key West, and I was there last month. There was an indoor, like a sanctuary that was all butterflies, and you could go in it, and it's covered. There's no sunlight getting in it, and it's butterflies. It's like an arboretum, but it has butterflies in it, and anything like that. You can go indoors. You can also go in the evening. By the way, once the sun is set. I mean the Arizona skyline at night is incredible. You can be out, when it's that hot. I don't recommend going out because you don't want to raise your core temperature, but you can certainly use the evenings and go out and, play the game with your kids that I do with my kids. And look for, you can sit outside, go up to drive up to the foothills and look at this beautiful panorama. One of the most favorite things to do when I'm out in those climbs is that spectacular at night, the skyline with all the lights twinkling in the distance, and be up in nature, and you can see the stars and see the lights of the city. I mean, it doesn't. I highly recommend in the summertime that you don't go out in the heat, and that includes, by the way, I see people all the time in Florida. We don't have quite that level of heat, but it's in the 90s, but we have high humidity. And I'm watching people out at, the sun is at its hottest between like 12 to 3. 1 to 2 is probably the hottest. You should avoid being out. It's certainly not exercising during that period, but exercise early morning or in the evening. So I would recommend in the summertime, like where you are now, enjoy the evenings and do any activities you do in the evenings, or go to indoor facilities. I'm sure that town has, probably a bird sanctuary, or you can go to zoos that have indoor facilities and do things. By the way, that's something I didn't mention, but a wonderful thing to do if you do live in the city is go to the zoo. Go to the zoo, connect with the animals in the zoo. I mean, that's a great way to resume that. And the other part is, one of the things, especially for kids, do you have a pet?
Yeah, we have 2 cats, 2 indoor cats.
2 cats. Okay. Yeah, that's having your children, by the way, spend time and take care of a pet is a tremendous opportunity to nature and nurture, right? And a great way for young kids to start learning responsibility and connection with a different species than humans. So those are all things you can do.
Right,
Cool.
Yeah, that's great. And then there was one question from someone in the chat. They're asking about, what do you do during winter? I don't know what this word winter is because I live in Arizona, but apparently
Yeah.
there's a changing of seasons when it gets cold
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the bottom line is, that's one of the wonderful things with technology today is you can get clothes relatively inexpensively that you can layer and keep you, protect you against the elements and get out and do things. Obviously, you don't want to go out and shovel snow if you've sat on the couch all year, because that's a great way to test your cardiovascular system. But bottom line is, I love the winter. I mean, I go specifically to the winter. I live in Florida, which doesn't get cold either. But I go out to Colorado and ski and snowshoe and just love to go out and walk in nature. So yeah, getting outdoors in the wintertime is equally important. Because you can get cabin fever, and just getting outside, the fresh air, again, observing the stars at night, those are all important ways to connect.
All right. Awesome.
Cool.
Thanks, Dr. A.
Awesome. All right. If that's everybody, we'll end a little early today. And hopefully this was helpful. I did this a little unusual. Most of the time, we're talking about, consciousness from the inside and how you're thinking, your thoughts, your feelings. But I think it's really important to expose ourselves, forest bathing, getting out and watching the sunsets, watching the stars, making sure we're connected daily to nature, interacting with species other than ourselves, are all important to assemble that reconnection, that synchronicity, that biophilia, which is so important, that we've kind of lost in so many ways with our advanced technology. So with that, I hope everybody's enjoyed us. Have a great 4th of July, and I'll see you next month.